Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Very well. Hold on.
It does look like it's loaded. Oh my god, why is it so purple? Why is it so
yes.
purple?
These are my.
I can show. Oh my god, I can show you on the browser what it looks like. This is currently what Middlecott looks like.
Hold on. I need to actually get your stream up.
Jesus Christ.
Close it on the wrong tab.
You will understand why I said, why is it so purple? That is like, we have entered the magenta dimension.
Alright.
Okay, so
Alright.
this is kind of what I wanted to focus on, LPL things in here. So, one of the big things you'll notice, is you look down the bans, where the hell is Silas gone? You have one game of Silas here, and look what happens to the Silas. So, if we're going to talk about what happens with the meta in this season, I think this is a very important point to start at. If you get to a point where let's have a look at what ban priorities are as well. So this is one game into WE versus FPX. This is after WE have actually just won their... Was this the first series, or was this the one that they won? No, this was WE winning their... So they went on a 0-16 loss streak last year. They lost every best of 3 in summer. They were on a 0-16 loss streak. And they broke that trend versus FPX here.
Love to see it.
Big things. Let's look at the priorities here. So... roaming beefy initiator mids are looking like they're back in vogue. So that is Ryze, who gets priority and then gets to shred the map. Galio's coming back a fair bit in LPL. That is more of a specialty pick. You'll have players like Zhao who being able to play that for forever, and I think Tangoang also played that on RNG as well, and let's be honest, if it's RNG.
Is that a, we've got strong top laners so we can play towards them with Galio, so we got higher prio sort of thing, you reckon?
I think because top lane is largely fighter versus fighter, swingy split push matchups, I think, yes, part of it is we believe our top laners are strong. I think part of it is also, if anything can influence that top lane matchup, nameplate's off even, just the matchup becomes very, very important to influence. Because if you leave a top lane 1v1 alone and you don't win it, things go badly.
Yes.
However, as it comes down to with a lot of pro player matches as well, it will be also about what's happening in bot lane. I'm very surprised in this game we didn't see Varus banned. Lucian was banned. That's a big one. And of course we see the Zeri picked up, the Zeri and the Yuumi as well. So this probably means you're going to see like a Sivir as well. So bot lane is largely what we saw at Worlds. That's the important thing from this. So in terms of the first kind of blows of the meta and what we've seen has been bot lane is largely what we saw at Worlds. That means Ashe Heimerdinger, Lucian Nami, Zeri Yuumi is back. That's an important one. We did see that at Worlds as well. And stuff like Sivir Yuumi is also around the corner. We're seeing bits of Draven that is less popular. Kalista is around, but not necessarily the crazy pick potential it was at Worlds as well. However, expect most of the bot lane meta to be around that same kind of benchmark. That's important because basically what that means, if you snowball through bot and bot lane wins, you're going to have a bad time. I think that is why we're having more priority mids, which can then roam to side lanes. And then everything is kind of like a knock-on effect of that. That's your starting point. Most people would like to blind pick a mid laner which can shove and roam, which means we've seen a bit of Taliyah coming back, an awful lot of Ryze because he shoves and roams, then also becomes a damage threat later on, and then some other mages which kind of hang around that point as well. We've seen a bit of Lissandra from Faker today, stuff like that. And then the Galio fits into that too. What this means is, though, because you have stuff like Ryze in meta, Akali and Silas, which were blind pickable first pick kind of options, are not really in vogue anymore because they don't shove and roam early, and there are a lot of answers to them. And another big pick because of that is Syndra. Syndra is the one pick which is like, oh god, blind pick in is kind of terrifying. Because it's... So even though it's not as much as the lane bully as it was before, you still get lane control, you get very good setup, and you get to scale very well into the game as well. Because you're seeing a lot of Ryze and Syndra traits, which have control early and ability to kind of like influence the map on the side of Ryze as well. And it's knock-on effect of that. That is a basic case of what's good into Ryze, what's good into Syndra, what's good into Galio, what's good into these things, and that will be kind of your answers to it. But those are what you're looking at your blind picks normally. And what this means is actually, let's see what happens after this point. Because I want to, which game was this? Was this the, yeah, because you can see right here.
I think this was game 2 of WE versus FPX.
Cool, yeah, thanks, I got that. Yeah. So as you can see here, like, so a lot of this is revolving around your bot lane is what you typically blind pick if there's a power pick. And that allows you to make, unless you have the premier mid lane picks up. It depends on the team that's playing. But as you can see here, when like stuff like, when you don't have bot lane bans, expect bot lane to just be like first round of your draft.
Yeah, this has reminded me a lot of last year.
Yeah, and there are some big things from that as well. Obviously, Wukong's back. In terms of jungle meta, we'll get to that later because that's a whole other topic, because jungle is just like, what the heck, man? We have a lot of tanky initiating team fighters because it's...
I'm seeing a lot of Sejuani.
Sejuani, Wukong. I think that you can see some Zac. We saw that from Meteor. We saw Skarner from Zac as well. Meteor was wonderful.
I've had a lot of people complaining to me about Zac.
Zac is very strong. Very good in solo queue.
Very, very gross, yes.
Oh, also in terms of the early Pro and Roam champions, Renekton mid also fits into that. We saw Renekton as an answer into Rise. We saw, so game 2 of the series I cast.
The Megamin special. The
Megamin special. Jesus Christ. But however, it's being more Prowler's Claw than Gore Drinker. So it's less about Build Iron Spike Whip, which is an item which just allows you to clear the way very quickly. More about Snowball, Dive, Roam, Kill. So that was Renekton Nidalee in that case, which I saw it. But I do think AD Renekton, because I think Renekton mid is one of the few AD prio champions which most mid laners can play. Because let's be honest, you're not going to see many people.
Doesn't take very much, you know.
Because the other choices you have are like Tristana, which is a little bit risky, and Akshan, who you need to be a main of. Really, you need to main that champion. You need to one trick it. Now, I actually think you can play something like Quinn mid. I've been trying to make it work recently, but
stop trying to make Quinn mid a thing. It's not going to be a thing.
Oh god, he literally just mean girled me on my own channel.
Film. It's a goated
It's so
film.
great. It's so great.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you can make AD mids work, it unlocks the jungle pool a lot more. But getting an AD mid normally means you want prio out of mid as well. So. And that doesn't happen as much. You don't have as many prio AD mids. That was what Lucian was very special for before. As you can see in this draft, Jax makes his way through. Jax is incredibly strong right now. And basically everything is, can you survive Jax? You see a bit of Camille, a bit of Fiora, but yeah.
Just to go back a bit, do we feel like Lucian is not in a place where you can put him in mid lane? Or is it a case
not anymore. Not anymore. Now, there might be some changes for 13.2 when crit changes come through, because Lucian is going to be very broken with Navori Quick Blades on a second item spike. Because his second items right now are not awesome, because he's building like Rapid Fire Cannon or Collector, which are... They're not the world's most powerful AD carry items. The reason you build Rapid Fire Cannon in Pro is because it's very good for mid lane priority. When you build 2 items on an AD carry, you expect that laning phase has ended. It almost certainly has at that point, and you've moved your bot lane into mid lane. And what that means is you're fighting over mid lane. Mid lane wave, which means you're looking to wave clear. Rapid Fire Cannon allows you to stand back and have the first auto on the wave sometimes if you feel less safe, but you still need to push the wave. And it also allows you to dash beyond the wave and get your first autos off with double tap, and then start really shredding them with your ults. So that's why Lucian builds that, but it's not necessarily about the combat power of the item. It's all about how you play around mid wave, which is kind of like how you should always take into account Rapid Fire Cannon versus Phantom Dancer, I guess, arguments when you're coming around AD carries. So when you have options like Infinity Edge for Super Burst or Navori Quick Blades for like cooldown reduction and ability damage, because one thing which I learned very recently, embarrassingly recently, because I forget that this happens, Navori Quick Blades, once you hit its item, kind of its critical strike breakpoint, it increases your basic abilities damage.
Up
now,
to
Lucian,
20%, I think.
Something like that, yeah. Which is obviously huge when Lucian gets a huge amount of damage out of W and Q when he is kind of dashing forward. So if you go like I'd imagine it'll be something like Essence Reaver into Navori. It could also be Gale Force into Navori, but you have options, right? And it allows you to be very, very bursty. So yeah, I think Lucian is just incredibly strong. Lucian Nami is just really, really good. Also, there is a lethal tempo Lucian build coming out as well with Navori Quick Blades, where you just become like a huge ice skating menace. Going back to this draft though. I think Silas blind pick is dead, and you'll see exactly why in just a second. Silas blind pick, there are too many picks which answer him. You don't care about... Ryze does not care about you. You can't out-skirmish a Ryze early because he doesn't die, because he's too tanky. Syndra has too much wave control, has a lot of burst early, even though she's not as good at that, and you don't care about stealing her ults. Akali beats Silas on the whole anyway, so that's like 3 picks off the bat. And then we'll see what the last pick is from FPX, which was... pretty nasty.
Something.
It was something. So as you can see here, they're literally just like, W are like, oh my god, we got to deal with the Jax. Blech. And then they're like, right, but we also need some playmaking across the map, because they picked a proactive mid-jungle, kind of jungler in the Poppy, and they're like, okay, how do we do with that? if I skip this forward a bit. Oh god.
Oh,
god, it's a Kassadin.
Okay.
And then you're like, oh no. Seraph's Rod of Ages Kassadin is insanely tanky, has an ult you really don't care about stealing, and can also go Doran's Shield second wind to survive laning phase. Silas doesn't get to play through lane, doesn't get to out-skirmish the Wukong Kassadin because you hate diving into that, and you get outscaled. Silas is dead. Very, very good. But you get through to kind of like this point of the draft here. No, this isn't it. Yeah. No, this is different. So you see the Kalista first pick. And that's when you're like, so I believe they hover the Silas here. I think they hover it just before this. But like at this point, because Kalista is locked in, maybe I was completely off base about this. This is where things change. Because when you have a Kalista, you can't afford to play something that plays and waits and scales in mid lane. You need something that gets out of lane. Kassadin doesn't play towards that. What that means is that maybe you can afford to take Silas into Kalista first picks because you know that they're playing heavy towards bot side and they need a mid laner that can push and roam towards that, which means that you can play something more aggressive and doesn't have to worry about something like a Kassadin just sitting and outscaling you. That's where things get very interesting. And that's obviously where Syndra kind of like splits the wick as well, where you're also early pressure, ability to early skirmish to an extent, not as much as before because Syndra is more of a scaling, but it also has that scaling aspect whilst having that. It's kind of like the weird Azir, the Azir kind of situation as well, where Azir has lane pressure but also scales.
Yeah, and I mean just like as a two-person lock-in as well, like it's Vice Syndra is gross.
That is so. You can't stand over a wall. You can't stand near. You can't stand close to fog of war. It's really annoying. But yeah, so that's a lot of like the key points in the meta, because I think the best way to look at a meta is what can you blind pick. I think right now there are some push and roam mid laners which are very good in some bot lanes. I think those are the ones which are very, very good. I think that Jax is a good blind pick top, and Cassante is a good blind pick top as well. So those are the picks which are largely going to define the meta, and then it's a case of can people learn champions or matchups that will stop them being blind picked, which is something that we saw last year with Corki, quite famously, where Corki was being blind picked, and then you see stuff like the M&S Kai'Sa mid or something like that, and it's like, okay, you actually can't play this.
Oh yeah, that was painful. So going back to top lane briefly, you said Jax and Cassante are blind pickable. What are they bringing, and why are they in that spot then?
Cassante, so both of them are very big lane pressure snowball side lane threats. So they can fight early, they skirmish very early, and they have a lot of mobility and a lot of turnaround damage. So if you leave them in a 1v1, even sometimes 1v2, they become a huge problem. And they are huge threats as backline divers as well. Actually, let me show you some of that from...
Before wait, he isn't dying moment.
Oh, the Shy had that today, actually, where he 1v1'd Jax. He got very, very close. This was Cube just kind of showing the teamfight impact of Jax. It reminded me a lot of Season 4 Jax, actually. Let's go through this draft and let's think about a little bit. So, game 1, Rare Atom didn't get a single kill. LGD completely shut them out.
That's not good.
Because they had a really tanky Skarner who would run at the two mobile carriers and like, we can't burst you out. They were playing Syndra Varus. And
yeah, I think I may have watched this game. Oh yes, no, because this is the one where it's like, oh yeah, I didn't watch game 1 because I wasn't awake.
Oh wait, was it this game or was it the last game? Oh yeah, no, this is Renekton Nidalee. Yeah. This is Renekton Nidalee from. Oh, this game was so stupid actually. This goes on really long, but I'll go to the fun bit. So let's have a think about what happens in this game and see why Jax is a kind of champion which is blind pickable and absolutely stupid. Because yeah, stuff happens very, very early, and this is where things go very poorly.
Speaking of things going bad.
Yeah. So this is kind of like Cube getting on the board. Things kind of go... And I just want to start showing... Oh my god. Oh my god.
Wait,
is that...
Oh my god. For fuck's sake, I knew that's what you were doing.
Oh my god. Is that... wait, oh my god.
Is that... Is
no, so let me just go like...
Wait, shit, I think I've got a shirt that looks like the one Hysterics is
Hysterics reading. Has that shirt game of Hysterics is really on point.
It was really quite incredible. It was really quite incredible.
Yeah. This is Jax Gaming. This is one of the clips I wanted to go towards.
Wait, hold on. This is Jax Gaming.
This is Jax Gaming. So as you'll notice on the minimap, Cube's done a reset. So he's... What happens here? Actually, what's the... When do they call this? Because Cube is walking topside, and then he walks towards bot side. So Southland is recalling... and I think probably the go button is noticing that Renekton's moved towards bot side and mid, and then Karma's going up, and they're like, all right. And as soon as that happens, as soon as Renekton moves bot side, Cube goes to join. Zhao doesn't have teleport on the top side, so he knows that he can't influence this play. You have level 6 on your Jax, which is busted. Even though there's level 6 on Renekton, level 6 Jax is just very, very strong nowadays. And Ryze gets to the play either way. And then, yeah, Cube just gets like 3-man everything. Okay. Infinite amounts of resists. And even very early into the game, he has a pickaxe and a Vamp Scepter, and he's already like 80% health to people. And it's like...
Yeah, if I'm not gonna lie, if I'm like Aatrox, Renekton, Nidalee, I'm FFing this at this point.
Yeah, if you had like you're down, you're not ahead.
Yeah.
You're not ahead at 10 minutes. Good luck. Yeah, legit. And they actually do manage to get some stuff off. I want to.
But that's late for the first Renekton,
yes.
Nidalee.
Exactly. That's exactly what I called as well. I was like, hang on. This is par for the course. This is like trying to make a passing grade rather than like get any kind of like real extra credit here. This is this is kind of fun because we kind of go into like the ARAM. The way this game ends is literally just LGD decide not to ARAM for like 5 seconds. They Ryze ult to Baron and end the game. It's hilarious. It just it
nice.
cracks me up.
Nice.
Okay, there's a particular 1v1 that happened. Yeah. This is where Jax starts popping off because you have a 4v4 in mid. You have the superior engage because you have no engage in this 4-man unit besides like some pick potential from. Hey, Valve, how's it going? Nice to see you. You have like no engage versus the Sejuani ult, but you have a Mikhail's and a cleanse on the other side. So it turns out neither team has any engage.
Oh man, It was in Iberia Cup. I think it was Heretics versus Barca. There was a game like literally just like this where one person bought a Mikhail's. And that meant the Astro, which was the only form of engage, stopped existing.
So when you have Jax passive and lethal tempo, there is no way you win extended trades as Aatrox versus Jax. You can't burst him out, and he has too much chase down potential. So let's watch that one more time for posterity. Yeah.
Why did we need to watch that one more time?
Because Cube, honestly, this whole series was basically Xiaoju just getting bodied by Cube. Even in the first game where RA had 0 kills, Cube had very nearly had some impactful plays, like some actual plays which could have turned the game. Cube is a very good player of League of Legends. I feel like this is another Jax moment.
I feel like this entire game has been Jax moments.
A lot of this game has literally just been Jax moments. And Assume, Assume does a little bit of Jackie loving in here. Yeah. Oh no, Cube has now got lethal tempo. You cannot continue to fight. Baron spawns like 20 seconds out of this point.
Yeah.
And they're trying like, okay, fight over mid prior. Let's try and find something. They burn their cleanses. All right, okay, fine, whatever. They don't have Sejuani ult. And I think because the ults are blown and they realize the objectives are up, they're like, we have to go towards something. They choose to move away from mid lane for like 5 seconds, and they lose the Baron and pretty much the game. This is... It really is. This is one of those moments where you're literally like, the reason that cause of death, refusing to ARAM. And like, they get this, and then Cube gets this huge play. Cube gets this absolute...
Cube... Wait, hold on. I like that. Like, Cube just isn't hitting the Baron. He just emerges out of nowhere.
Yeah. Actually, where was he?
He's coming from the bottom of the fight. He's coming from the bottom of the fight, yeah.
Yeah. He's coming from the bottom of the fight. I think he actually ends up like, hey, Vixelty.
He's like, surprise, I'm back.
4-man stun.
What a champion!
4-man stun. Zeri's popping ult. He has Zhonya's because AP Jax is actually a thing right now. Jax being able to build Zhonya's, I think that will break this champion in the long run of the game. I think that will genuinely be game breaking because if you can go Zhonya's earlier on Jax...
Counter-strike, Zhonya's, counter-strike.
Yep. And your ult's running during that time as well.
Yeah,
and like,
that's really gross.
He has too much goal reduction. LPC has no way to fight this. This is just game breaking. And this is how we're won game 2 after having a kill-less game 2. Game 1 rather. Like, they got 0 kills in game 1. So this was a very elongated point about why the hell is Jax blind pickable? What's the value of stuff like this? Why are we not seeing as much Aatrox? Aatrox been nerfed. And a couple of other champions are... they're kind of like not as like or evergreen now. I think Jax doesn't have losing matchups. He has a couple of skill matchups. Cassante can beat him in a 1v1 occasionally. Fiora can as well. Those are the 2 matchups you're like, okay, that gets a bit spooky. Besides that, you really are kind of just chilling and you scale just into infinity. You can't leave him alone in the side lane. 1v1 matchups in side lanes has become unplayable after a while. Maybe something like... No, even Gwen doesn't beat him nowadays. On release, she could,
really?
But not nowadays. Gwen used to on release because Gwen was stupid. But, yeah. Yeah, that's just one of many reasons why Gwen gets kind of... not Gwen, Jax just becomes like pretty much untenable.
Yeah.
So, in terms of like some of the hallmarks of the meta, we talked a lot about how mid lane has changed quite a lot because of Sylas, Akali being less first pickable, particularly with stuff like Ryze being the meta. That's been a huge change. A lot of the bot lanes are similar to what we saw at Worlds. We are seeing a lot of Heimerdinger outside of Ashe Heimerdinger as well, because he is kind of like in the same vein as something like a Karma, allows you to push the wave very early and just save your laning phase. We saw that a couple of times in this series as well, actually. First game, we saw the Zeri versus Varus matchup. Varus is typically meant to be a lane bully, meant to win that, but because you have a Heimerdinger into a Leona, you don't get to play that. And as you can
Leona doesn't enjoy that.
That is a 0-6 Leona, and Southwind had a very bad game. Recovered from that second game, but yeah, even in the third game, though LGD lost, the Heimerdinger actually had a pretty decent impact on early lane phase. So you're seeing a lot of that. Yuumi is still disgustingly broken.
Yeah.
Top lane, we're seeing a lot of fighter split push threats with some kind of scaling factor in them as well. Renekton is back too for reasons. He's just back. He's just back.
I've been seeing. I had a brief peruse of GOL. I'm seeing lots of Maokai as well on there.
Yes, tanky initiate the junglers. That's what we're really seeing. Because actually, I was chatting with Sam about this yesterday when we were walking about some places, and because Sam is a jungler by trade and was reminiscing about Season 9 jungle, I was like, well, I didn't really enjoy it when a Camille could solo kill me at level 3 in mid lane with any matchup and just like flash into mid. I'm like, I'm dead. Kiana as well, stuff like that. Now, I think the jungle meta is actually more varied than what we're seeing from this. What we are seeing an archetype of, you see Viego, Wukong as kind of your damage carry team fighters, where these two can legitimately carry a late game fight. We see a little bit of Graves doing similar stuff. I think Kindred is also viable too in that regard if you want to go damage. I do think level 3 gankers, largely gone. I think that if you're a specialist in level 3 ganking, or level 2 ganking,
so no Jarvan or
Jarvan
stuff like that
is...
anymore.
Jarvan... I think Jarvan might make a comeback into... So the game that we just saw, or say this draft here, when you have like a Phelios Syndra, when you have games like game 1, Varus Syndra.
Yeah, I can see a Jarvan.
Stuff like that. Double mobile carries, you can dive onto them. I think that can help. I think the problem is, though, on the counterplay of that, it's much like playing a Nautilus, where once you're in, you are in, and you're not actually a tank. You are bursty enough to threaten defensive things, and you're hoping that the fight ends when you engage. Because if it goes any longer than that, you die, and particularly into... So, for instance, in this game here, this is a really good draft to kind of talk about. Actually, let me bring that up. Just get on stream. Let's have a look. Let's have a chat about it, because there's another one which I... Oh my god, is this a game which I cast in the LPL? Oh my god, crazy.
Wait, so you cast... The second game of LGD versus
also
RA,
cast
and
the first one. It's crazy.
No!
I know, it's insane, right?
This is quite ridiculous of yourself, mate.
I know, it's like I cast multiple games in the same series. What? Well, hang on. This is going to be a bit of a tangent. So Kalista, Draven, that's 2, Lucian.
Disgusting early game bastards.
Yuumi bans away Zeri as well. You don't want to play Zeri outside of Yuumi. Well, you can play with Lulu, but basically it bans Zeri. Yep. So this is like 4 bot lane bans already. This is Johnny as well. Tank Initiator is the marker.
Tank Initiator jungle.
Roy's first pick. What was I going to talk about in this draft, actually? Yeah, I was going to talk about the Skarner.
Scar.
Yeah, because of mage itemization, you don't really get to be able to kill tanks and squishies at the same time. This draft gets really, really awkward for rare atom. These 3 picks scream, dive into me and die. That's realistically what their composition is. You get within half a screen, it does, a CC lands and you die. That's meant to be the play. And I don't mind their draft after this point, actually. I think there's some cool stuff. Because actually, if you're going to go towards that kind of archetype, Viego gets a reset off of that first kill and just resets on the fight. That's typically awesome. Now, Cassante is very hard to kill on that front. And then, obviously, you've got the Zeri kind of stood behind them. Zeri Heimerdinger gives you some backline access. And I like to refer to Heimerdinger as an anti-carry. Not necessarily killing a carry, but stopping a carry from functioning. If you have a turret with a Rylai's on it, which adds a slow onto it, you can just chuck stuff really long range, and it won't do much damage to a Varus or a Syndra, but it will slow them, and because they don't have mobility, because they don't have any mobility, it's like, well, what do I do?
Yeah.
This is going to be another tangent. But remember back in Season 10, when Aphelios was released, the way that you would beat an Aphelios was you would pick stuff like Syndra, and actually in the LGL, you'd see a lot of Heimerdinger as well, because you would literally just be there, and you'd have like Ziggs, Heimerdinger, very DFM special. It's like, you don't have Gale Force in that meta. Gale Force didn't exist yet. You actually cannot dash into range.
Oh God, yeah.
So you're permanently slowed, and you can never get in range to do damage. Even if that damage is not always significant, it does become significant. It does. But if you're playing with 2 immobile carries that are getting slowed from outside of their combat range, they're never going to get into range to do combat. It doesn't matter if they've got arrows and like long range stuns. And then see the Skarner as well. Now, we learned later into this game, if you ult away from a Skarner or a Skarner ults you as Viego, you actually go back. Yeah, I didn't realize that. And I caught it, I was like, what the hell? Excuse me? I was like, what the hell is this?
I mean, you're impaled by a giant stinger. Like,
yes. So, yeah. So this draft becomes about, like, this team has to kill the first target. If Skarner gets ahead in the game and just farms up, he is unbelievably tanky, and K'Sante is the same thing. Whilst also having Ryze to control side lanes, and then also some scaling damage from Zeri and Ryze as well. So, effectively, this becomes, oh god, how do we hit our damage breakpoints on those 2 carries? And then maybe Gwen can do the same by killing the backline by throwing the ult, across the team fight. Spoiler, I actually quite like what Rare Atom kind of designed as a 5-man unit. I would have almost...
I think it's...
I would have almost liked Zyra, but Zyra here.
How do you...
Harold, thank you for the subscription. I appreciate it. Subbing so I get text-to-speech, maybe. Oh, I didn't enable that. Middlecourt is a big dum-dum. You're a magnificent person. I think the problem is you're giving us so much lane pressure when you pick the Varus for lane pressure here. And this is kind of what I was talking about Rare Atom and LGD, not really having the early game precision to make things work. You'll notice that, like, they get pushed in very early in this game. I don't think I want to go through the full VOD for this. Yeah. But effectively, as soon as this tanky jungler, which can engage onto you, can walk past your initial kind of barrage of skill shots with load of move speed, your comp falls apart. Viego can't stand there and be the typical Viego. I can tank an ultless hook with my ult and kind of like position very aggressively, look for something. But if you miss skill shots, I can look for a fight. If you hit them, I can ult away. Can't do that versus Skarner. And you've got 2 immobile carries which can't survive that either. This game is literally just about, can you hit breakpoints to kill the first target? And they can't. They actually just can't. With the current state of itemization of tanks and then damage carries as well, where if you have a tanky farming initiating jungler, like a Skarner, we see it with Sejuani a lot, and we see it a little bit with Zac, although in the case of Zac, in the 3rd game of the series, which Rare Atom ended up winning, it's actually more about the Zac gets shut down, doesn't become tanky, becomes the first kill in every team fight. In this kind of game, though, it's just unplayable if you get ahead.
I can distinctly remember feeling very, very bad for Meteor, because I was drafting a tweet. I was like, did you know that Meteor had, what was it? A 39.8 KDA on Zac in NALCS Season 3 Summer, because that was Meteor's KDA on Zac. Yeah. And then, as I was drafting a tweet, he got first blooded, and then he died some more. I was like,
let's just go into this. Did they blow flash yet? They actually did. So, like, what was this? Yeah, it's around here. I know our cameras are in the wrong place, but whatever, deal with it. It's only going to be a short clip. Like, you can see again, like, Heimerdinger, but you pick the Karma into it this time, so you can actually, like, have some counter push. Southwind had a pretty okay Enchanter game earlier on. Meteor doesn't even do a level 4 gank. He gets in, like, a super opportunistic, like, flash blow. Then you're like, okay, alright, cool. Flashless carry, someone with, like, no mobility, awesome. But Lian does a really good job of countering this.
Yeah, that's really good.
And because remember, there are 2 points to this. 1, you threaten the backline, but 2, while you are threatening them, you are also too tanky to remove. So they have to blow flashes and they can't stand and fight. Now, you've blown a flash, that's awesome, but if you fall too far behind the pace of the game and losing like topside camps, losing a buff and then also losing scrap and stuff like that, it starts to put it towards that kind of nature.
There is nowhere for Meteor to go. There's nowhere for Meteor to go now.
Well, and that's why he walks over Vision, goes towards topside, and Cube's like, well, I don't mind if Zac's here. Let's just go for a fight. Let's see if we can out-mind game this. And they do. And Meteor jumps in. As soon as Meteor jumps in, I think this game is over. Legitimately, as soon as Meteor jumps in, this game is over. And I think this is something which this is another thing which about the meta which I'd like to track a little bit, because if you're playing tanky initiator versus tanky initiator, when it's kind of like Yeah, and your job is to basically have an individual lead, but not to carry in damage, but to carry in terms of threats that you have in regards to CC and forcing you out of position. If you die early, you have already failed to fulfill your goal in the game. As soon as you jump in here, you're not winning this. You have a ghost, you don't have a flash to get out, and you have a Jax who's stacking a passive.
Yeah.
He blows flash, he loses passive, he dies. So when we see stuff like Sejuani, it's a little more forgiving. Stuff like Vi, to a lesser extent, Skarner, because you have to be very physically present in the front line and you can't really get out very obviously. And then Zac as well. You're going to have a really, really rough time if you fall behind the game. I think...
Zac especially.
Zac especially. So I think one thing, particularly with teams like this, Rare Atom, LGD, they were kind of like bottom 3 teams last split. They need to do an awful lot of work if they're playing towards this style to have more clean early games in regards to not playing into a loss condition.
Get it.
Oh, I guess there is one thing about this game which I want to kind of zoom in towards like later into the game, which is like you've seen that now you've got the Fiora counter pick coming into the Jax, which is meant to kind of like
yeah.
At least be able to deal with the Jackson 1v1.
It was Jax the pick into Fiora at Worlds, wasn't it?
Yes, it was both.
Yeah.
Or like, but it's a skill matchup. But
Skill
it can go either way.
yeah.
Fiora's been hit a fair amount with recent nerfs, I will say.
Good.
Like,
ooh, crikey, that was quite unpleasant for Meteor.
Yep. Yeah. Again, like if you are just a tanky initiator and you're not actually tanky, you don't actually get to be initiator either.
Well,
Even
I mean,
with
like
Radiant Virtue, I don't care.
I mean, like that's the whole thing with like Zac specifically is he's not one of these tanks that gets like just
follows him through with the vial. That's really sweet.
That's
I like that a lot.
sad.
Oh, that's really well timed. That's really well timed. Yeah. Bonk. Oh, they teleport the turret. I forgot about that. Oh, they teleport.
God, yeah. Oh my God, yes.
Oh, no. It's really sad. Oh man. Okay. Where the hell does Fiora die again? Because I linked. Yeah, there's a really funny bit here because Baron's down, and they literally. I think I made a point here because Hysterics is literally just like, yo, Xiaoju, buddy, your base is falling. I'm literally like, he's like 70 CS down, and he has 0 items, and he's 2 levels down. He would do nothing. He's literally there. He's a cheerleader he's a cheerleader if he turns up to his own base.
Hold on. 7 minions instead of 6. Come on, man.
Oh right, yeah. Yeah. But like, I'm sad that I'm like, look, I kind of accept the sentiment, but like, at this point, legitimately, what can Fiora do? Because Fiora cannot be in a lane with anyone. If anyone is in a lane with Fiora, it's like, it's just like lights out. Fiora doesn't get to play the game. That's the state of this game. And it's like, yeah, you are literally forced as LGD to stand in a 4v5. You wish your top laner could come back, and that is the correct instinct, but you can't. So Fiora does get like a tower on the sideline, gets the bot lane in a turret. Meteor's dead again. And watch what happens when Fiora tries to go defend this bot lane turret. It's just like, oh wow, Fiora has returned to a lane. Fiora is it.
Oh, Fiora is actually not in that lane
Fiora is
anymore.
actually not in that lane anymore.
She's actually
Fiora
not
has
in that
fact
lane.
died.
I'm an empath.
As an empath, I can see that Xiaoju's health bar is going really low. I want to see the replay of this actually.
How quickly does it go? How quickly does it go?
I'll show you.
I want to just look in like
so,
the little...
starts going down, like 24:40. It's 3 seconds.
Yeah,
it's 3 seconds and they're dead.
I'm pretty sure that first chunk was 1 Jax auto. Leaps on.
Probably. I think they get a replay of this actually. I'm trying to remember. Is there a picture-in-picture of this? What does this happen? I'll put it.
I don't know. You're on the broadcast, man.
I seem to remember there was a replay. There was a replay. I'm just trying to remember if it was full screen or picture-in-picture. Because I think LPL does a really good job of like doing very casual picture-in-picture. Like, I really like that about
the broadcast. They tell you who the fucking casters are every 2 seconds, though. Jesus.
They need to know. They need to know. This is it. Yeah.
Right.
So,
let's try that.
Well, there's your problem. You're a combined 4 levels down on these two.
It's level 30 versus level 13.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, this is just not fun. Yeah. So that's where I was literally just like, yeah, so good luck trying to actually send you They've built a Ravenous Hydra and they can't stack it. They actually can't stack it. And yeah, so this is where things go badly if you lose these skill matchups. So This is likely to happen at some point in LEC or LCS when people try and pick these matchups into each other and they actually can't make them work. But yeah, so I guess, whatever. That's kind of like the end of what I wanted to talk about in that game. But yeah, so we are seeing less Silas Akali. They're still around, but they're not blind pickable as much anymore. Expect Ryze and Syndra first picks. Ahri is also kind of fallen off because she doesn't really like playing into Seraph's Aroa, kind of hard to kill mages.
You can't get over the line in terms of your damage.
Yes, maybe stuff like Ahri Wukong. Apparently JDG BLG, that had some really good mid jungle stuff in there. Ahri Wukong, Ahri Vi, they can work in stuff like Ryze, which is low escape as well, but you need to play hyper through mid jungle. I think that's when you have lineups like Xiaohu and Kasa playing together, you're like, yes. That is a comp, that is like a team which I would happily play through mid jungle 2v2. So I think bot lane, largely the same as Worlds. You've got a lot of awfully strong bot lanes. Most of them will be banned. Maybe we will see a point where they are unbanned and you'll see a trade of them. That's what we saw with RNG versus OMG, I believe. But in terms of mid, your blind picks are typically going to be Ryze, Syndra. Typically those. Maybe something like a Galio as well. Top lane, you're looking at Jax, Cassante, maybe Fiora as well if you're like You Should Know Me. YSKM, fucking great. He plays like 3 champions, his 4 champions. Yep. So go talk to Molecule on Twitter if you want to know about You Should Know Me. Because
yes, okay, I will.
Because he, I think he coached him in PCS for a bit. Actually, I'm trying to remember. But yeah, he plays 4 champions, which are Jax, Fiora, Camille, Aurelia. They're all AG champions, which like fight 1v1s, and he literally just 1v1s.
I'm not sure about this person. I'm not sure about this person.
And yet he has literally
a champion pool.
And
yet, a champion pool.
But he's so good at those champions. If you allow him to have any one of them, he will just solo kill you. So it's worked so far.
Like that. I like the sound of that. Thoughts on Elise Victor?
That happened in LCK and it happened today, didn't it?
I've just looked up. It's on GOL.
So that happened. Games, that happened in Weibo's games. So the whole point of Elise is that, I said that level 3 junglers are kind of dead.
Yeah.
Elise is the one exception when you just hyper pile on bot side. What we saw in the games, we saw it today because it was also played by Peanut against T1. That didn't go so well. It also happened with Canyon against DRX, and they won with that. If you're playing with like Kate Lux or something like that, or something which is pushing and like looking to just really be crazy, Elise counter ganks level 3 are basically unbeatable. Good luck with that. And there is also the chance of diving as well, because Elise is one of the best diving junglers in the game. So you're not great at multi-target dives, but you are good enough at getting the first kill and getting out that it doesn't actually matter at that point. So Elise is back as a level 3. I'm going to annoy bot and allow bot lane to play through its win condition. We've seen this with Caitlyn. I don't know whether this will work with Kalista dives. I think that might work, but it also might just be all-inning too much on the dive working. Whereas with Caitlyn, you're happy to just get pressure. So that kind of works in that way. And also it is an AP jungler, which allows AD solo lanes if you have them prepared. Now, they were playing double AP between jungle mid. The reason this works is because if you're playing super early game, before boots are built, before first item, having double AP between the jungle matters less because no one's itemized yet.
Everyone's auto attacks.
So that's why I think Elise is coming back a little bit more. I don't think it is the best thing ever, but I think it has some limited uses when you're playing like hugely around bot lane, like super around bot lane. Elise just can influence that a lot.
It's like you were talking about the Zeri requiring a Yuumi or a Lulu. Like it's champions that have a lot of strength, but they require narrow conditions to be met in order for them to be actually useful, I guess.
What will be very interesting when LEC starting up as well is seeing what teams have what blind picks prepared. Because I don't think every team can do Jax Fiora top side. Even some of the better carry, because like the carry top lanes we've got in LEC, you've got Broken Blade who does play those. He plays everything pretty much. Yep. Although he's had his highs and lows. We'll see how consistently he comes into this year. Someone like Ebby is a Fiora player, is a Camille player. I've never seen him play Jax. Odo Amne is not a Fiora Jax player. Maybe they'll play Cassante. Ebby is a Cassante player. He's a big kind of bruiser player. Like his best champions of all time are like Tom Kench when he was a lane bully, Gnar, Set, Urgot as well. Kind of like these more tanky, less 100 to 0 you. The boys. Yeah. And
the arsehole top lane champions.
Now the thing is, I look at someone like Chasey and I'm like, oh my god, Mad Lions have lucked out so much.
Yes.
Because if you have someone like Niski, who's a good Ryze player, and a very good kind of like roaming player, Talia, Ryze, Galio, he like all of those things are good for him. And you have a player who's like a Yone Fiora main who plays stuff like Jax and stuff too. Mad Lions could be in for an absolute treat. Now, you know what? We haven't seen any Trundle yet, have we? I was thinking about Elio's champion pool. I wonder if Trundle being out of meta. Maybe he'll bring it back. Maybe he'll bring it back because you can make that work.
The thing about Trundle is he's notoriously weak into tanks, Alex. So
Shut up.
why would any
now, Middlecart, I don't deserve this sass or this attitude. I think you'll find this is my stream and what I say. Go. Yeah, but no, I think that actually Trundle has a place. I'm very interested in seeing how players like VTO adapt to not having Silas Akali. Someone like Caps, I trust to do anything. Someone like Perks, I think Perks and Caps are going to have a rocket fueled split. This meta is exactly them. When you have like Syndra, Ryze, stuff like that coming back in, I'm like, the players who played around season 6, 7, which were kind of like around that kind of time, someone like Bjergsen also going to have a really good time this time. I think they are going to absolutely pop. So, my hot take for LEC from this stream, we talked about a lot about LPL, but this is, I think the meta falls perfectly in place for Chasey and Mad Lions. I think also when you have Perks and Caps, and they have junglers which are in Yike and Bo, which are incredibly good at skirmishing and playing towards mid. When you have mid laners which can shove, roam, and kind of scale up with Roa Seraphs, or lane control like Syndra, I think that Caps and Perks are about to have like their second golden age in terms of meta. I think that you've got Mad Lions and you've got those two kind of sets of mid jungles as well, which could be absolutely insane. So pen that down. And come back to me in like a month when I'm completely right, and if I'm wrong, you don't get to mention it, okay?
I never get to talk about it again.
You never get to talk about it again.
I'm just not allowed to. Oh, okay, that's fair enough.
Never thought to do it. That's what I'll take.
NDAs and all that, yeah.
You know, crazy. I'm trying to think if there's anything else from meta that I've kind of like caught up with at some point, but yeah, I think that's largely where things come down to. I think jungle might take a little bit of unwrapping still.
Feels like it's someone in a spot. But yeah, mate, that has been. I did not realise that was going to be in depth as it was. That was very, very useful.
Turns out when you ask me to talk about meta, I talk about meta.
Oh God, I can't believe it.
Meta this, meta that. Have you ever met a girl?
Is that? Oh, I've not played Metal Gear Rising.
It's so. I thought it was Duke Nukem. I thought it was Duke Nukem, like really like shitpost voiceovers.
Oh yeah, din.
You're right.
Have you met a girl?
You're right. There are two sexes. The sex I have with your mom, and the sex I have with your dad.